Hey everybody,
Hi, Joel. How are you?
doing great, doing great. It's great to be here.
Cool. Yeah, I think the session you're gonna show us is incredibly cool because I've been in a private preview of it, and it is a really interesting product. Can you tell us something about yourself? What you do in the community to give people an idea of
Sure,
who you are for the
sure.
people who don't know?
So I've been working in the Microsoft space for a long time. Uh, Back in the year 2000, I was hired by Microsoft to work on. Uh, Basically, there was a product that was under the desk of a product team, and they wanted to get IT to host it. IT was kind of pushing back, but finally relented and said, "Okay, we'll take this collaboration product and bring it to the data center." And that product, Tahoe, an Office web server, would later become SharePoint, which we all know.
Cool.
And so I was kind of that first hire inside of IT to manage this global, what would be kind of a huge global deployment of SharePoint, kind of the first deployment at Microsoft. And I was the first kind of full-time hire to run that and to work with Jeff Teeper and his team, bringing it into the IT data center.
Wow. Yeah, for me, I mean, we met each other, I think, in Dubai for the first time,
Yep,
a really long
that's
time
right.
ago. You were actually the SharePoint god. And nowadays you do a lot more than that, but you have
Yeah,
seen
you
so
know,
much in the world.
I love to travel. I mean, that's definitely something people should know about me or do know about me. I've been on this quest, back before, since we met in Dubai, to go to every country in the world. So I love to travel, and I think that it was actually travel that really got me into the 360 3D mixed reality space. Was I wanted to capture those experiences and be able to relive them. So I got a 360 camera and started, brought it with me to Madagascar, and
Yeah,
yeah,
I've seen the pictures and the videos.
yeah, lots. I want to capture these experiences and share them with friends and family and beyond.
Yeah. Shall we start with the session?
Sure, sure. Sounds great.
Okay.
I'm gonna share my screen.
Yes. So people can ask questions on YouTube, and I will make sure that when you're finished, we will do the questions after that.
Great. So I do have a couple slides. This is obviously going to be way more demo than slides, but I wanted to look at this more holistically, not just talk about SharePoint Spaces, but kind of talk about what's been happening at Microsoft, because I think it all kind of fits together in a huge way. Um, and for me, I've been working in the productivity space for a long time. I am an MVP and a regional director in the Office Apps and Services space. I'm a director at Proficient, who's my employer. And so you may know me from some of my community antics. I love to have fun with the community. I go to lots and lots of events. You may even know me from my YouTube baby penguin video, which has gone viral. I think I've got 8 million or so views on my YouTube channel. Um, I did an InfoPath funeral at one of the events, uh, which is interesting because apparently security was going to try and shut us down because they weren't sure what was going on, but Microsoft said no, 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 let them do what they're doing. They had to give them a heads up. It was all cool. And at this past Ignite, we actually had a wedding for Teams and SharePoint, because I really think that it's important for the community to understand those products really are better together. But yeah, love to travel. I've got about, before COVID, I had 4 of the last ones left. I've got 2 countries outside of Africa left to visit, on my quest to go to every country. And I was going to knock out 4 of them right before, 4 more in Africa that I was going to knock out right before COVID blocked my ability to get there. Yeah, Proficient, where I work, they're a big Microsoft partner in the productivity space and beyond, Adobe, Oracle, all sorts of stuff. But I want to kind of look at what's happening in the industry with mixed reality. A lot of this, people think about video games, healthcare, some of those things kind of seem obvious to them. But this big wave of AR and mixed reality, man, it's huge. And I think COVID has actually accelerated it. Trying to get any kind of Oculus hardware during the pandemic has been difficult. There was a dog who actually chewed through one of my uh, through one of my setup, and one item in my setup, and man, it caused a lot of issues. And just trying to get a used one as a replacement, it's triple the price that it was normally. But today, my agenda, what I want to talk about, what's going on in the industry and how that relates to Microsoft's strategy and what they've already released. I want this to be more of what's actually available today, not just visions of things, but actually talking about what's possible and happening today. And in the background there, you can see me with my friend Noah, who lives in Utah. I live in California. And we've done a number of mixed reality presentations together at various events where I'll go into my headset, he'll be on his headset, and then we'll do full on sessions from the 3D space. And we did the first SharePoint Saturday um, in mixed reality, kind of a VR based mixed reality. There's also some Facebook groups we've created and are a part of and contribute to around mixed reality in the productivity space. So the first thing is, when we think of VR, we think kind of that immersive experience. And there's a lot of kind of specific scenarios in that. But I think that it's important for us to not just think about VR. I do think that the AR space and kind of the mixed reality of what's possible is important to keep in mind as well. And I think it's very purposeful that Microsoft is focused on mixed reality. This idea of it's not one side or the other. There's a lot of it's a kind of a spectrum, you could say. And even just last week, I was meeting up with a friend and I had bought this new scale. And when I was buying the scale, I noticed that there was a view in your room button as I was buying it. So I clicked the view in room, and he's like, "Well, what does it look like?" And you show the picture, and it's only so good. But when you can view it on the ground, you can say, "Oh, that's just a normal scale." Um, but you can imagine at home buying a couch or furniture, especially, and that idea of being able to see it in your room or see it, around you is so important. So retail, we're already seeing this in a huge way, and anybody who's putting products now on any kind of marketplace, that mixed reality experience is actually more and more important, so people don't have to go to the store to see what it looks like. People obviously want to touch it, but we can get super close to that concept with more of that mixed reality. Now, in the Microsoft mixed reality, you could say that Windows 10 was really the first operating system built from the ground up to focus on mixed reality. And you may have seen Joey in his Cliff House and that experience of being able to put your calendar or your task list or your inbox or whatever in your Cliff House, and then being able to kind of start your day or whatever inside of that. But I actually think that mixed reality looks a little bit more like this today in 2020. And what I'm talking about is here we've got the NBA, and in the background, because of COVID, we can't be there in person, but with mixed reality, essentially Microsoft Teams in together mode, the players feel like the audience is there, and the audience can participate essentially with what's happening in the NBA. And the way that they're doing it now is they've basically got kind of a lottery system where they let 500 people go into this special invitation area. Obviously, they've got all the various streaming capabilities, but if you want to have your face show up on the screen, it's a bit of a lottery to be able to get into that 500 person room where they're allowing people to then come on screen and be a cheer for the fan or cheer as a fan and really participate in a kind of a mixed reality kind of experience. And now I want to jump into some demos. I wanted to start with a very basic experience in Windows and kind of work our way up to full-on SharePoint spaces and some of the stuff that we can do in Teams. So we're going to jump out here. And let me just start with, it's typical if you got a 3D file, and I think this is, let's start with the basics, right? And a lot of people, it's not starting with the basics, it's not starting with a file, but let's just say here, this is a 3D B, right? In some file objects, we can actually see them and you can actually see the object. In this case, you can see there's a built-in 3D viewer right in here in Windows. I didn't have to download this, and I've actually got a 3D viewer right on my desktop. So I can, it'll then pull up the object, and you'll see that in a second. I don't know why it's taking a minute. I am running a bunch of stuff in the background just in prep for this, and here it is. So we're looking at our little bee here, and you can see there's a number of different ways. In fact, we can change the animation style. You can see there's different animations for this object. Pretty cool. And we can see it take off as well. Pretty awesome. And I can even click this mixed reality button, turn that on, and we can see that bee in a second. And it's going to basically put it in the room with me. Like I said, I'm running a few things in the background. I apologize for the delay. But basically what it's going to do is it's going to turn on the back end of my laptop and bring it in. And while that's happening, I will switch back here. One of the things that you'll notice as well in Windows is there's actually a container called 3D objects. So if I want to be able to, I'm working on something, I want to make sure I can easily get to it. Maybe I'm working in a program, Maya or whatever. I'm working on objects. Not only do I have my typical music, pictures, videos, now there's actually a thing called 3D objects, which is pretty cool for being able to kind of work with things. And what's awesome as well is actually that full-on experience where if I'm in Teams, let's say, and I come in to look at my files, you'll see I've got my OneDrive here, and even Teams actually supports the 3D objects as well. So that's important to understand, is like if you're doing collaboration, you're doing productivity around mixed reality or around 3D objects, my ability to do productivity in the mixed reality space is not limited. So as an example, I can upload files, I can download files, I can see things in 3D as well. So whether it's that the bee or a T-Rex, I've been messing with some masks as well, which we'll talk about in a second. But as an example, and I know this bee one took a minute to load in Windows. We'll give this a chance to load here as well. So think about this from a perspective of, in 2D, there was that kind of restriction around, it meant a big deal when we actually had kind of that ability to kind of work with these 3D files and pull stuff in. Now we've actually got capabilities not only in Windows and in these viewers, but now we actually have visualizers and viewers, and you can see it's loading now, inside of the productivity tools we use every day. So my ability to be able to see and work with my 3D objects in my collaboration environment, that's really important as well. And I probably did pick a fairly large object to see it in, but here you can see, here's our bee, and we even have those same ability to get our takeoff view or the hover view of this bee as well. So pretty cool. So even inside of Microsoft Teams, we can be working with 3D objects and animation essentially of 3D right inside of our environment. And what's cool as well is it doesn't keep us from being able to say moving it to OneDrive or moving it to other folders or even doing collaboration around it, being able to share these files and work with them. And you can see even this filter as well, we have a number of ability to speed it up or slow it down and so on. Um, changing some dimensions of the objects in this space. So pretty nice viewers, even inside of our collaboration space when working with these files. Let me jump over to Word here for a second, and you have to apologize. I did change my resolution to get a better experience here, and I want to kind of show you here in Microsoft Word. So this is your typical Microsoft Word, and you can see this is what your typical working with an image is like. So I've got a 2D image, and you can see I've got my picture effects and borders and styles and so on that I can do with the image. And what happens as well now is if we've got a 3D image inside a Word, we can actually work with that image as well. And we can rotate it, move it around. And if I double click on this 3D image as well, you can see some presets for which image, location I want to kind of change the way that my image looks. And as well, I can change the size and scope and scale and positioning, wrapping, and so on with my 3D object. So that's pretty cool. And what you may not have realized as well is I do have the ability with that gallery concept, I can click insert. And I did slow down my machine with all this crazy stuff I'm running right now. We've got 3D models here under our insert, so I can actually hit up the stock images online that are available to me, and I can imagine, corporations having, massive galleries of construction of their objects, AutoCAD and all that jazz going on as well. So to basically, I can search for things. Say I'm in education. We're studying the solar system. There's some actually animation for education. So some things that have been pre-canned, built for education, dinosaurs or erosion, some windmill farms or whatever, hearts and things like that. I really like this astronaut one. And these are not just 3D images. They're actually, the little runner sample down here actually means it's animated. So I could actually bring in an astronaut into my document. I could bring in my 3D model into the document, and I can keep it flat. I can do it in 3D. I can actually keep some animation. I can actually choose some animation even for my 3D object. And it's not just Word. We're talking Word, PowerPoint. Like I said, this stuff integrates actually quite well with the productivity tools we use every day. So being able to work with 3D objects, it can be quite powerful, even in our simple productivity tools. And I'm probably really messing with my tiny little laptop that I'm working on right now. But this obviously works a lot better when I'm not doing so much all at once. But here you can see we've got our animated astronaut here, and he's floating above our space. And you can see we can switch out his view and so on. And notice as well, we've got this thing called scenes. We can pause him. If we hit the drop down on scenes, we can actually see that there's a number of different animations already built for this object. Use those built-in animations that have been built around the object that are built in with this object. And again, like our typical things when working with 3D and imagine annotation and those kinds of things, being able to work with an object and then be able to give your feedback. You can do your what's great about Word and PowerPoint and these kinds of things these days is it works with multi-user editing. So my ability to bring a 3D object in, bring other users in, and then be able to manipulate those and have collaboration and chat around those. You can see, obviously, let's bring in the comments. Let's bring in some users. If there's other people who are editing this, I can actually see who's in here and we can collaborate on the content itself. And one thing, in fact, so I mentioned the bee earlier in the mixed reality space. Here it is. It's flying around in my room. Pretty interesting. Yeah. All right. So one last thing before we move on. Let's just say that you're working with a 2D picture even. Here we've got some funky llama, but we want to actually spice it up. If we pull it up inside of Windows, just with our typical image viewer, and let me shut down a couple things while I'm moving along. So even the image viewer inside of Windows, it gives us the ability to basically work with it and to simplify life along the way. And when you talk about productivity and even crowdsourcing, I've been super impressed with, it's all about masks these days. I don't mean to kind of divide the audience or say anything political, but obviously masks save lives. And what's cool is the community has actually uploaded a number of 3D objects that you can then download and print. So that mask that I was just showing is actually one that I downloaded the STL file, and I can pull it up inside of Windows, and I can actually go and print it. So I actually downloaded the project, and you can see here's my little mask. I'm actually going to close Teams. See if I can get a little bit of memory back. And while we're waiting for that to load, and I understand that it's unfortunate my machine's kind of bogged down a little bit, but you can see here, this is a YouTube video I recorded in 3D, and what's kind of cool about this video is I actually get the ability to navigate around the video. So I can see the content in 3D. And you might say, oh yeah, that's great for YouTube. But what's great as well is 3D, in even productivity, say in Facebook, I can upload my 360 videos. And yeah, that's not just an image, this is a full-on video. And basically I can then navigate around in those those videos, and I can upload them in my productivity spaces. So if you're talking about lots of like 3D content and visualize based content, there's a number of different ways to work with it. All right, I'm gonna give my machine a break for a second and go back to PowerPoint. So we looked at some of the 3D content, and I love this idea of like, you know, some person in Singapore is working on a mask, they upload it, and the crowd around the world can give feedback on the mask. They can be downloading it, printing it. It's incredible the ability that we have just in working with 3D content, and the ability to print is built right into Windows for printing 3D content as well, like with your 3D printers. And that whole DIY maker class of people, there's so many of those. It's amazing people who kind of figure things out and have been building a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, exactly. That's my bad. Office itself has actually been rebuilt essentially, or has been upgraded to then work in the 3D space. So like even with Facebook Spaces, and I know they're working on a new version of that stuff with Horizon, but your ability to bring PowerPoint into the 3D space and actually work on slides and do full-on productivity in the 3D space is now built into all of Office. So it's pretty cool that we can be taking 3D images and bringing them and putting them right into PowerPoint. Now, obviously, there's some things like keyboards that get a little bit clunky, but the interfaces are getting that much better. My ability to do, say, dictation and build stuff and actually work in 3D is getting better and better, like working in VR. And there's not just one productivity suite in VR now. There's many different productivity suites where you can actually work in Windows inside of VR. So that's actually getting better. So our ability to not only have meetings in the 3D space with avatars and that kind of thing, but at full-on conference rooms. Cisco's done a lot of work. Microsoft's been doing a lot of work. Um, uh, and even with, say, the virtual things around us, like my ability to put on a virtual background, but even that, say, together mode, our ability to have more of being able to be more connected with other people in this mixed reality space, where it doesn't matter that I'm in a small little room, I can open that room up and we can make it whatever we want to in this kind of virtual space. Now, there ends up being more of this collaboration when you start pulling together HoloLens or, say, Microsoft Teams with Remote Assist. I've got my 3D content in my SharePoint or OneDrive, bringing in my AutoCAD models and things like that. So I'm just going to show you a quick sample video of somebody using HoloLens with Microsoft Teams. So you can see they're doing the call. They're bringing a remote person into the call. So she's on HoloLens, but the people are in the conference room. So you got kind of that call window for the person who's in HoloLens. But you'll notice as well, we've got kind of that remote editing, working on a common file. And imagine being able to do, say, troubleshooting on a remote thing where basically you can bring people into it. So one person can be on their phone and being able to bring it in, or say from a conference room. My ability to basically bring that mixed reality experience in and kind of bringing the 2D space and the 3D space together. And our mobile phones, our mobile devices actually kind of help bridge those gaps as well. And what's great with the remote assist capabilities is our ability to actually annotate right on the device as well. And you can imagine as well the power of being able to bring in diagrams or instructions. So you can use these tools to be able to do, say, the annotation or bring in arrows and comments. Yeah, it's pretty cool. That ability to kind of, and this is only going to get better and better. Our ability to bring the, say, our productivity tools actually into this space, and whether it's the glasses or kind of that some kind of mixed reality viewing experience, could be on our phones or in a headset, as an example. And especially in, say, these um, pulling in things from Microsoft 365, say SharePoint or OneDrive or lists. I would expect. Now, I think a few of you may be here to look at Spaces. Now, SharePoint Spaces, what you want to do, and you can actually go do this on your tenant now, it actually is available. You want to go into the features and activate something called Spaces Preview. So you go into your site settings, essentially go into the active features for the site collection, and then you can activate it. Once it's active, then when you're on a modern page, when you click new, you'll be able to see this ability to create a new space. So basically those, first thing you do is need to activate it, then you can create them. And I'm hoping that my machine is gathered a little bit more memory. But I'm going to go ahead and jump into this. But before I do, I'm going to close a few things. In fact, if you're looking for that NBA video, that was actually just a couple days ago. So if you just go to nba.com, you can just look at the videos here, and you can actually see examples of that partnership between Microsoft and the NBA. The other thing we want to see here, say from a Spaces perspective, let's go to, I actually have a party coming up, and what I've done is I've created a SharePoint space where I've created a number. I want to have a virtual lobby for my party. So as you can see here, we're actually in SharePoint Spaces, and I've got a cosplay contest, some Microsoft trivia. We're going to have some live music and DJs. We've got an astronaut just floating there, but we've got lightning talks. We've got a community zone, and we've got kind of an AltSpace community zone as well. So we've kind of got the 2D video chat as well as the 3D more fully immersive VR experience in AltSpaceVR. And to create a lobby, or what I can do then is you'll notice in this space, I just click edit, which will then allow me to edit this space where I can then add new experiences. So see, I click the little plus here, and I can add 3D video, I can add 3D images, I can add 3D objects, I can pull in 3D libraries of, or it could just be 2D stuff of images, videos, 3D content. You'll notice I've got a people one for kind of building out org charts, and then we've got text. You can see I've actually done, this is text plus the 3D object here. You can bring in straight 2D videos, but my ability to consume those. And now what you're looking at now is you're not in the headset, but these are also viewable in a headset. So I can actually create these spaces where it's almost like a virtual gallery, but this gallery could be pulling in things from a library or what have you. So what's nice here is my ability to then I can let's create a place to put our item. and I've got a catalog. I can pull stuff in from OneDrive. You noticed I was kind of working on a few different things in my OneDrive, but I want you to see this catalog. And this catalog itself is fairly pervasive through PowerPoint, Word, Excel, or not Excel. I don't know if I've seen Excel, but basically Word and PowerPoint for sure. And you can see as well, it's quite visible here in Spaces. So my ability to say, you know, I'm looking for, wish we had some interactivity. I would ask you guys, what do we want to see? But I like animation, so let's look at some animated things. So you can see there's a variety of different things. Obviously, we would want to just search for stuff. There's our little bee, but you can see there's a pretty good variety of things. I like this juggling octopus. Okay. And I understand that's a bit random, but you can actually put some thought into this, or even building things, or go on the internet. There's so many places where there's 3D content to then bring stuff in. So here we've got our juggling octopus, and I can grab the corner of it, and I can move it around. I can actually resize it. I can move around a little bit. You can see the dimensions here as well. Like if I want to like move it up in space, I can move it up. I can move it back. I can, like I said, I can resize this, make it quite a bit bigger so people can see it. But what's great about my ability to then work with this 3D content as well is what do I want to do with this? So I've got my object, I can give it some text, but notice I have this ability to set some actions with it. So I can add an action where I can link to some other space, which is where it's really powerful, say from a virtual lobby concept. I can link to say a Teams meeting, or I can link to, in fact, I think that's what my plan here is, to basically link right into Teams meetings so people can jump into, or I can link to the AltSpace event. I can link to the video chat. So I can run my party from a virtual lobby in SharePoint Spaces. I can have it play a song, or I can have a link to a video, or to another SharePoint space. So you can actually create a bunch of them where, imagine you've got kind of a virtual library of the products. You know, if you've got a new employee and you want to get them comfortable with the products that you make, absolutely, let's create libraries, and let's bring in those three-dimensional content in your organization. Instead of having it be buried somewhere, let's actually bring it into a gallery. And what's interesting is a lot of companies have had to do this, but they've had to basically hard code and essentially muscle build these kind of typical spaces. So what we've got here with these SharePoint spaces is the ability to have a space that is both viewable right in your browser or in the headset. So if we want to go walk around the products that we make, whether they're, you know, the SharePoint Spaces team, a lot they're showing off drones, and a drone company, there's a lot of drone startups, right? But imagine you even how many Amazon companies are there these days, right? Like these companies who build products and sell them. They're a dime a dozen, tons and tons of them. Well, we already talked about how important in retail it is to have 3D content so people can see your product in the 3D in their home, right? That visualization is really important. Well, just as important as the consumer to be able to see your product is your new employees who want to be able to see it. They want to be able to experience it. They want to walk around it and learn about it. You can have the educational videos right there with your models. And it can be a fairly powerful experience. And obviously you can put additional content. We can, you know, add a text podium. We can make it transparent or not transparent. There's a bunch of different things we can do here. But I don't want to take up too much of your time. But this idea of then being able to kind of work with this stuff. Here's our juggling guy. But yeah, what do you want it to do? You want it to click and start a 3D video. Even the background around this, when we look at the space itself, you'll notice I've created the party. This is a virtual lobby. We've got a geodome or a terrace. I'm looking at kind of this arch experience. I'm using a custom 360 file of space. Basically, I don't know if you can tell, but there's little stars in that image around it. I can control the height of this space. We can have a welcome message. And what's cool is, when people come to it, we can actually be running some ambient music, including a custom audio file. So, it can be actually kind of a Zen experience of, hey, let's go check out, we're an outdoor products company. Let's go walk around our tents in this space, and then we can go click off to then go see the backpacks in another space. I hope this has been relevant and kind of helps you kind of visualize some experiences here. But you'll notice how this space is just part of our same navigation. So our ability to kind of navigate this stuff, or even put this space in Teams, or put this space somewhere else. We can actually have it be embedded somewhere else. So that can be quite powerful. And I absolutely do think the new employee experience, how can we actually help people get the culture much faster? And the productivity and this ability to kind of ramp people up, whether it's helping people see our products, helping people learn their job that much quicker, learning about the team in the virtual space. I worked at Blizzard about a year ago, and there was so much 3D content that those designers were working on, but my ability to consume it was in a wiki, a flat experience. How much better to go and learn, am I human or am I an orc, and understand the background in those scenarios. I don't want a flat wiki and watch a bunch of flat videos. I want to go have an immersive experience and learn, who these orcs are, and learn their history, and in an immersive way. Some other kind of more practical things. Microsoft actually has, and Max, I give Max huge kudos to this virtual rounding experience. Let's take the virtual and actually bring it into the hospital, where the nurses don't have to actually go visit all those rooms specifically. And imagine, once a day, sure, but how much PPE is destroyed based on all those individual visits, where the person, if they just have either a computer monitor in their room, or iPads, where the people themselves can order what they need, not just demanding of the nurse, but also bringing in that experience of, hey, are you okay, or I need something. I'm not just hitting the red button, I'm actually talking to somebody. They don't have to run into the room each time. That's seriously powerful. Imagine training. Education is huge around 3D. I was actually looking at the solar system. Wow, that's so powerful. The ability to actually see the real rotation of the planets around the sun, and then be able to rotate it. Oh wow, and resize it, be able to see it in different ways. So much better than those kind of crusty models you see with a bunch of wires. Being able to actually see the planets in their own rotation with the correct colors. There's a 3D immersive experience now that has the 92 moons of I don't know if it was Neptune, but basically being able to really explore all our solar system, and get to know the planets and the moons and all the names of everything. How much more immersive is it? When before I went to Abu Simbel in Egypt, I experienced it virtually. I went into the headset, zoomed into where Abu Simbel was, which is the tomb of Ramses, and was able to see the giants that are surrounding it. Education is probably I mean, these kids are so lucky that they can actually go and experience these places before they can go decide if they really want to go. Um, it's kind of hard to see, but you see as well. Here's a kid with a helmet on, floating above some lava or whatever. That ability to create these guided experiences. You talk about these master classes. How much more what is education going to be like in these master classes where we can be sitting with the expert and seeing what they're doing and experiencing it in real time or in an immersive way, because our ability to do it immersive as well as real time is only getting better and better. I talked a lot about products. I think product design and development, immense the opportunity there. Visualizing data, absolutely. But I think as well, one of the things to kind of stop and kind of back up is we have our ideas of what we think mixed reality is, and often we think it's a headset. But actually, if we can actually think about the more simple things that happen to us every day of our video chats with people, there's so much of that that is actually truly a mixed reality kind of experience where no, these people aren't actually sitting in a classroom. They're actually each in front of their own respective video cameras, and our ability to make the world smaller and closer and more productive is my dream and our reality today. And with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. If you're wondering about this party that I was talking about, it's going to be on August 27th, 12 Pacific time, 19 UTC. Hopefully that works for Europe and the US. I know it's a little bit difficult for Asia, but I am hopeful that people in India and Dubai will be able to join us. A worldwide party where we're going to have music and DJ, cosplay, games, trivia. It's going to be awesome. It's basically a Microsoft 365 virtual community launch where we want to launch a virtual community that's a global community. And with that, we're going to stop and we're going to open it up for questions.
Hey, Joel.
Hey.
Hi. Was a really good session.
Hey, thanks. I apologize for my little laptop not being able to keep up with some of the things I was trying to push through.
Oh, no worries, no worries. You had some sunlight at the back during the session.
Oh,
At the
yeah.
same sun went down during the session, and you came more and more in in the video image.
Interesting.
Yeah, we had not many questions, but I think I have a question.
Sure.
Where do you think it's going in the future? What will be the next step if you look at all this technology?
I think that it's going to be people like the NBA who say, "Hey, how can we have our fans here? We want to play with our fans." And I think that, what's cool is they've got money to spend, and I do think that it's going to be corporations who demand and consumers who demand things like our ability to do products in retail and say, you know what, I want to see that product here in front of me. I think that it's consumers who are driving it, and in the business space as well, it's like companies who want to do things. The military, oh man, I do think the military is going to be spending a ton in this space.
Yeah,
I was talking to a guy after one of my sessions like this, and he says, I see it. I see the vision of it. He's like, when I went through basic training, we had live rounds shooting over us, and I was not prepared. He's like, I had PTSD in basic training where there was live rounds shot over his head. He's like, if I could have known what that was going to be like, my mind could have been much more prepared. And I was thinking through that. And I'm like, you know what? You're absolutely right. Video games have prepared people, but if you can't have people know what the noise is going to be like and how, what it's going to being able to visualize things makes it that much easier. I think,
I
people's ability to overcome their fear, it's very, very therapeutic. I think healthcare is huge in this space, not just, you know, being able to look at a heart, but our heart, being able to look at our stuff with the 3D scanning and being able to then represent it and say, hey, let's talk about your stomach ulcer. By the way, here it is in front of you. Let's spin it around and open it up so you can actually see what it looks like.
Yeah, it was actually yesterday I saw on LinkedIn a movie with a surgeon which was actually doing something with the brains, with the head that has to operate, and he was able to use, in this case, a mixed reality device to view how the brains were placed inside the head and where he had to go in there.
Wow.
And it was impressive.
It's interesting too. We think, oh, well, a lot of the world doesn't have money for this. But what's interesting is I've heard of some scenarios where they don't have enough doctors in some countries in Africa. And what they're doing is it's cheaper to actually have a headset in a clinic where they just have nurses than having doctors in every single clinic in some of these villages.
Yeah.
And even that ability to kind of, hey, bring the headset, you can have those be able to be somewhat distributed, so then you can do the remote assist in places you wouldn't even think possible. Like I know it's really popular in Alaska where there's just not enough surgeons for some of these smaller remote areas, but there's a nurse who then has a device where the doctor can then be with her essentially to be able to do the surgery or whatever. And that remote assist capability is becoming more and more pervasive as well.
That makes it possible, and
Yeah.
it's incredible. It even works on so low bandwidth. It's we have to round it up. Almost.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, thanks so much.
With you. It was great to have you at the GlobalXR talks. So I definitely we will see each other definitely again in the future.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I really love this whole mixed reality community. I hope that people who will experience this in 3D will have as good of experience as we have, and even better, more immersive, right? It's great.
Yeah, we had a small issues there since the video is coming through perfectly, but you nowadays users have to turn on the sound themselves, and not everybody
Right.
knew that. So in the next room, I will be moderating, and we'll make sure that the people who are in there know what to do. We will take care of that.
That makes sense.
Thanks, Joel. Thanks for the session.
Thanks again. Thanks, Alex.
Bye.
Bye.